As you might be aware, in a traditional assessment-based grading course, scores on different assessments can be averaged or added together to get some type of score. SBG, since the focus is actually on the learning targets, you have to approach that in a different way. So if you're in an SBG school, then calculating the grade is actually very easy because you would just report the different grades for each learning target. But if you're in a traditional school in which you have to report a singular grade, you have to come up with creative ways to calculate the grade. A teacher from Minnesota shared with me this approach in which basically the teacher takes the average score for each learning target and uses that to calculate the grade. So you can see from this grade book, you see that each row is a different student. Each column is a different learning target instead of an assessment. And just like in an assessment-based grading course where you might take the average of all the different assessments, this teacher takes the average of all the different learning targets. So that's one approach. Another teacher takes the sum of the scores for all of the learning targets in a grading period and then divides it by the maximum possible points. Right. So you can see for this chart is showing one student. So you can see this student's gotten 4 out of 4 for almost all of the learning targets except for one of them. You got a 2 out of 4. So when you add up the score, you get a 38 out of 40, and that equates to a 95% or an A. Option number 3, you can set up a chart in which you predetermine the number of learning targets you need to pass in order to get a certain grade. So you can see at the city of St. Charles, the school district, you can see that depending on the number of standards or learning targets in the grading period, that can equate to an A versus a B or C. So a student will know in advance if they get 13 out of the 15 learning targets completed, that's how they get an A, for example. Another option is similar in which there is a predetermined leveling. So you could just identify, in order to get an A in this grading period, you need to be a level 4 on these learning targets plus a level 3 on this learning target. So you could announce that in advance.